Thank you everyone for joining us today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Barry Crumford. I'm the organizer of the London Java community and also run a recruitment business called RecWorks. So I'll just give you a little bit of background. Oh wow, we've got 15 people on today. That's more, I think, that might be exactly the number that signed up. This is good. This is good. Yeah, normally we get about half the people that sign up actually in attendance. So yeah, really pleased to see a good number here today. Yeah, if you don't know about myself, my business, I know some of you on this call really well. There are a few names now I don't recognize. RecWorks is a recruitment business, but we founded the LJC back in like 2007. It was the first tech community that we actually started. And since then we've started or organized and run about 15, 16, started a few more this year. The latest one's the Aspiring Tech co-founders. So if anyone's interested in that, then let me know. But we do a bunch of different stuff that's all around trying to help people level up with their careers, working in the same space for so many years, being like Java recruitment, speaking to Java developers day in, day out, and watching people and their careers has given us a chance to see the things that people can do early on and how that then impacts them further down the line with their careers. And so a lot of what we've learned, we've then tried to help new people entering in the industry kind of ramp up their careers quicker and quicker. One of the things we always used to talk about was open source software development. We always saw loads of people doing open source and then really like just their careers just going hugely jumping up as a result of that. And another thing was speaking. So people that got involved in speaking at conferences, user groups, all that kind of thing. And so we wanted to encourage more people to speak. And we set up this group a couple of years ago, like 2020 in the pandemic, this Aspiring Speakers group. And so we run this event every 2 weeks, which is like a combination of the Aspiring Speakers and the LJC. So that's what you're here to see today. If anybody watching fancies having a go at speaking, if you're not an experienced speaker, feel free to talk to me afterwards. We do have some experienced speakers on today, so it's not just for new speakers, but anybody that's looking to test new material or try and get feedback or has written some interesting stuff and just wants to share it with the world, anything like that. It's just, yeah, it's a revolving audience. Every week we've got different people. So if you fancy getting involved and giving it a go, then come and see me afterwards. But okay, so with that, I will crack on with our first speaker. Asia, are you all set? You good to go?
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Barry. It's nice to hear about the community. Like, I am new to this community and I'm appreciative. But yeah, I'll get straight into it. So my name's Asya, and today I want to talk about the mindset needed to actually succeed in a male-dominated industry. For anyone who doesn't know who I am, I transitioned into technology over a year ago, and now I'm a software engineer at NatWest. I'm also a certified blockchain developer. I'm launching my own tech startup. It's called Chainverse, and Chainverse builds communications platforms within prisons in the UK, US, and Europe. And I'm just a massive advocate for like mindset self-development and helping people from underrepresented backgrounds and various genders get into technology. So yeah, what I will cover today is self-development, confidence, failure, and just some tips for everyone out there on how to keep succeeding. So yeah, when it comes to self-development, I believe to achieve anything, so whatever you put your mind to, whether it's like in the tech industry or just in general, you need to have the right mindset. And the difference, when I talk about mindset, I talk about fixed versus growth mindset. Now, when it comes to a fixed mindset, it's things like, it's affirming things like, I can't do this, I won't be able to do this, I'm not good enough. And that is where a growth mindset is needed, and especially in the tech industry, and especially as a woman who is trying to succeed and be seen within the industry. A growth mindset is, I can do this, I will do this, I am worthy and I'm amazing. And what that allows you to do is then focus on what you can control. So one saying I always like live by is, apologies, just recovered from COVID. One saying that I always live by is, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, do not focus on it. 99.9% of things will not matter in 5 years' time. So focus on what you can control right now and not what you can't control. Just accept things for what they are and make sure that your daily choices allow you to be able to do that. And what I mean by that is focus on mental elevation, spiritual elevation, physical and also emotional discipline. It really helps you when it comes to a growth mindset. And then what that allows you to do is within the tech industry, when you do actually face obstacles or rejections, you have that growth mindset where you're like, that's okay, like I embrace this, I can do it, and I will do better. And in regards to self-development, I also say like always focus on small daily goals and never focus on the bigger goal. Only because motivation only lasts, it's a feeling, right? It will only last for a short amount of time, but that's where discipline comes in. And that's once again where growth mindset comes in. Having that discipline and just focusing on small daily goals will then allow you to get to that bigger goal. But if you always focus on like the bigger goal and compare yourself to other people, you will never, not only not be motivated, but not disciplined enough to actually focus on your daily goals. And that's where confidence comes in. So confidence is key. Confidence allows you to not only like seek and attract opportunities, but it also gives you the strength to keep trying. And my tips to like build confidence is, first of all, become self-aware. So when I say self-aware, I mean like get to know yourself, as in just journal, like what type of person are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And that then allows you to actually become content with yourself. So when you walk into a room or when you attend a meeting, you already know yourself, and having that contentment brings that confidence. And especially in the tech industry, you know, as a woman, I know that there's been times in the past before I became self-aware where I would walk into a room and I would feel like I'm not worthy of being here. But the more I got to know myself, the more I knew what my strengths are, the more I became content. The more now I can sit in a room and I know that I belong here, and, you know, and I'm content with myself. And that's where like mental, spiritual and emotional elevation comes in. And then it allows you to attract opportunities. But obviously with every journey, especially within the tech industry, nothing is smooth. You will face failure, rejection and obstacles. And my advice for all the women and just people in general out there is embrace failure. Like failure will allow you to grow. It will give you knowledge, experience. It will give you value, and it will allow you to know next time when you're in that position exactly what to do. And it'll help you build resilience. And once again, when you build confidence, failure, you'll be able to embrace it, and you'll be able to keep going and just learning that this is okay. And you know that saying, Rome was not built in a day. So nothing you set your mind to will happen overnight. And especially if you're outside your comfort zone, it's not something you're used to. And, you know, I guess we're conditioned in society to like stay within our comfort zone, but we will never grow. Whereas outside your comfort zone, you will always grow. And just know that when you are outside your comfort zone, you'll probably receive 100 times more rejection, failure and obstacles, but it's the best thing ever. It's the story that matters, and it will help you attract greater opportunities. So lastly, I just want to close off with some tips for all the amazing women out there and people as well in tech is believe in yourself, journal, become self-aware, don't give up. Whatever like you set your mind to, just go ahead and do it. You know, I never believed I would be where I am in the space of 12 months and, you know, let alone be a founder or win a global award or any of that, but it happened. And trust me, I come from a very underrepresented background, and you know, I'm here today, so if I can do it, I believe that anyone else with the right mindset can achieve what they want. Embrace rejection and learn the power of no. Like learn when to say no. It's really important, and learn that you don't have to say yes to everything. You're not going to miss out. Like what is yours will be yours eventually, and just learn to accept that. And once again, that comes in with contentment. Strive for leadership. All the leadership roles out there, know that you are worthy of them, and negotiate, you know, your salary. Never think that you have to stay in that comfort zone when it comes to salary, or that you might not be good enough for something bigger, especially women in tech. Negotiate your salary and stay outside your comfort zone. I've never stayed in my comfort zone over the since I've started my self-development journey, and I've grown the most, and I've seen and give advice to other people who've stayed outside their comfort zone, and it's just beautiful to see the growth that they've done in such a short amount of time. And lastly, network, seek mentorship, and always think and act with logic. It's always the way to make the best decisions. But yeah, those are my tips and my advice to keep succeeding in a male-dominated industry.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I'm so sorry for getting your name wrong early on as well. Sorry, I had that in my head as Asia, as how I read it. So yeah, apologies for that.
Arabic name, it's quite complicated, don't worry.
Yeah, learn the power of no. I think that's such a crucial part that come just at the end there, but yeah, big fan of that. Does anyone have any questions for Asia on that at all? Christian, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple, and I hope you don't mind follow on question. I found the talk really interesting in general. I don't think the advice applies just to women. I myself, I'm more of a person who goes out there and seeks opportunities, and I think anyone could, take your advice to heart. So very useful. In terms of that, you mentioned in the very beginning of your talk that you transferred into the tech industry about a year ago. Just as a quick question, where were you beforehand?
So I come from the sales industry, non-technical background. So I
see.
A technical background. I was just in law and sales.
I see. How did you find the shift into the tech? Did you find it difficult? I personally, I've learned some coding on the side. I'm more of like I would say business support sort of background. I've tried sales, not my cup of tea. Personally, I have a lot of respect for sales. But I was thinking of transitioning into the tech background, and I've got some coding background. But how did you find it? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say if you're trying to go into a programming role, so whether it's software engineering, software development, machine learning, you name it, I would say just first research what you're interested in, like what programming role. As you said, you have coding background, so I'm assuming you want to go into like a coding programming role. So therefore, if that is the case, then research what other programming roles out there, what you're interested in. So I picked blockchain development, software engineering, and then I found out the most popular languages, which was Python and Solidity, and a few other tech stacks, and I just literally just focused on that, and I learned that, and I did boot camps and YouTube videos. There's so much free online resources. I also wrote a Medium blog on how to actually go into a programming role, so I will send you that with all the resources and communities. I would also say network with whoever has the role that you aspire to go into. So find them on LinkedIn, just write the role and literally DM people. What you will find is so many people are willing to help for free. So yeah, and for me, I found it, I was very lucky. I think now there's so many initiatives for women to get into tech. So I actually got into tech through Sky. They provided me with a Women in Tech Software Engineering Academy in January 2021. And then from then I was just like in boot camps provided for women and self-learning. But I know for like men who have transitioned into tech, there's also same boot camps out there for you, but I can send you the resources. And definitely do it.
And then quickly, sorry to steal the limelight, everyone. I don't want to run this over, but as the last thing, you seem like a very active person that picks up anything that comes their way, which I think is absolutely amazing. And you said you need to learn how to say no. I found myself being overwhelmed by essentially picking up projects occasionally. Do you have any tips for like picking up the right opportunities? Because sometimes it's not always clear, at least from my perspective, what you should drop, as it were.
I think I don't think there's any such thing as right opportunities. I think opportunities come, and I think you need to be prepared to see the opportunity. Like Jim Rohn, he's one of my favorite speakers, and he said something like, he basically said, prepare yourself in the winter mentally and emotionally, so that when the spring comes around, you will be able to see the opportunities. But if you're so hectic and unorganized and just like your mind is everywhere and you just want everything, you won't be able to see the right opportunities that are in front of you. So therefore, I would say focus on organization. So I had to learn the power of no, because I can't take everything on. I want to say yes to everything, but it would only overwhelm me, right? And I've been there where I had hit burnout so quick. So now I literally organize my days. I'll have my morning routine, my daily routine, which is focused on what I actually want to learn and where I will be in like 5 years' time. And then my evening routine, and I do that on Trello board. It's like a really good organization board. It's like Notion. So yeah, focus on organization and just your specific goal, and that's it, and break it down to daily goals. Like, I don't know what happened yesterday, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know what's happening today. That's what's going to help you, and you will see the opportunities. They'll just come like in front of you, and you'll be like, okay, that's for me, that's for me, that's for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Asia, and thank you, Christian. Okay, Andrea, sorry, I know you did have your hand up there. Just noticed that we've gone a little bit over here, so can we come back afterwards maybe to that, if that's okay? Okay, cool. So thank you very much again for that talk. I really appreciate that. Right, moving on. The next one we have is Lewis. Lewis, you good?
Hello, hello.
How you doing? Right, let me just move you to a co-host just in case you do want to share your screen. So you
I don't need to share my screen.
You don't? Fine, okay. Whenever you're ready.
Cool, thanks everyone. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking today about the many hats of a QA lead. So I joined the company back in May 2021, and I became a QA lead there. It's a startup in the home care space called Sharif. It's one of the fastest growing companies in Europe at the moment. So it's quite a lot, and it involves quite a lot of hands-on stuff. So it's hard to define what my job role is. I actually signed the contract without seeing the job spec. So yeah, it was very much me going in the dark, not knowing what I was stepping into. But building on the many hats, so I don't just do quality assurance, right? I get involved in lots of other areas. And also in a startup, you don't have all the roles that are traditionally in larger organizations. So I've come up with 5 hats. So the first hat is obviously a quality advocate. So that's what I do day in, day out, talking to teams, asking them how they're going to test things, working with them on testability, and also how to observe user interactions in production. So that's my first hat. Then hat 2 is a business analyst. So we don't have BAs, we just have product owners, and how we get around that, right, is the product owners write the stories, but I help them build on the scenarios, I help them think about the users, and also bridge that gap between the technical requirements, because of the tech leads that we have may not speak the same language, and it may be hard for them to communicate together. So I kind of have that hat as well. Hat 3 is a software architect. So come from quite a technical background, working at companies like ASOS and Cancer Research UK, where I've worked with some great software architects. So I can put that hat on when I'm talking to a tech lead, and I can say to them, okay, when we deploy this application, this maybe is not so secure. This may be a problem later down the line when we come to build upon it. So that's hat 3 that I put on. And hat 4, we've got the DevOps representative. So now that development teams work in ways where they deploy their own code, right from development environment through to production, we need to have that in-house. We don't have a dedicated person like the BA role. So the DevOps, someone has to adopt that role. And in testing, we often work with continuous integration to get our tests inbuilt. So again, that's a skill that I have that I can provide to the team. And then hat 5, which is kind of the role that people think that QAs do a lot of the time, because you come at the end of the funnel towards releasing your software, the release manager. So the release manager is hat 5, where the typical sign-off that you would have in a waterfall model kind of falls on the QA. I don't think sign-offs should exist because it's the whole team's responsibility, and you should have thought about it before you merge the code in. But that's a conversation for another day. So yeah, the QA often gets involved in release notes, talking to other teams to say, okay, these changes are happening, you need to be aware of them, and also getting the metrics ready for when you go to production to see, okay, when we release this, what are we looking out for? What do we expect to change? And what are the risks? So they are the 5 hats. Go through them briefly again. We've got the quality advocate, the BA hat, the software architect hat, the DevOps rep hat, and the release manager hat. So in my role, I adopt all of these 5 things. And what I think is so great about my role is that it involves all of those things, but that's not what's in my job spec, right? So yeah, just to kind of highlight that I do much more than someone thinks that I do from someone who doesn't work closely with me. So yeah, that's what I wanted to discuss today. I've just realized, obviously, I'm right in the middle of Women in Tech week. So I want to do shout outs to the women that I look out to in my industry. So Angie Jones is a big ambassador for testing, now moved into the blockchain space, so that's very exciting. Marie Drake is an amazing blogger and also shares a lot of knowledge around testing tools, which is amazing. And yeah, a few others, but I just wanted to shout them out, as I don't want to be the face of this week without mentioning it. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lewis. I'm a bit concerned about my Wi-Fi. Can everyone still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thumbs up. Okay. Brilliant. It started going a bit wobbly towards the end, just right in the last few sentences, and I think it might have been my end, so I just wanted to make sure it was all okay. Thank you very much for that, Lewis, and of course the shout outs. We had a talk last week about what does a business analyst actually do, and I think these things are so interesting, where you sort of you work alongside, you work close to people, you hear these job titles constantly, but then you don't really know all the different parts of their role and how it all fits together. So it's so nice to get a bit of insight, a bit of overview into what that may look like. So yeah, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions at all for Lewis? You can just open your unmute microphone and jump in.
I have a question, but I might scare Lewis a little. So Lewis, actually just did a quick little search on your background. I've noticed that you went to sixth form college in Colchester.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, went to the same college as well, and
No
coincidentally, I also did psychology in university. So amazing, yeah. So absolutely amazing.
What are the chances?
Yeah. So what a surprise! How did you get into like being a QA lead then? Going off of that background as well.
Yeah, it's quite a journey. I started a company, very small company, 4 or 5 people. Where I kind of did a bit of everything. So I did support, I did a bit of marketing, I did a bit of business development, and then yeah, got into the kind of the testing space through that, and then applied to do a graduate scheme at a software testing consultancy, and then just went from there, really.
Yeah, interesting. Where and how you end up out of the little sixth form that we have in this area. Yeah, wow.
It's a pretty big sixth form, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question, Lewis. I kind of do similar thing like, you're saying, and I could resonate it quite well with the talk you just gave. And the question I have is like, which is your favorite and most challenging hat as well?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So I really like solving problems. So like that is what I do, and like that is kind of how I add value. So any area where I can solve problems. I don't really like the release hat because that often involves a lot of politics. DevOps hat is quite interesting because I get to get hands-on and write some code, which I like doing. But I think the kind of software architect is the one that I like the most, because that often involves solving quite complex problems with the application and also talking about them. So I think that's the one that I enjoy the most.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lewis, and thanks, Anu. Okay, right, we're moving on then to the third talk. Carl, sorry, you were meant to be our second talk. I realise I've just changing the structure all over the place here. Sorry, I just saw Lewis's name jump out at me. Are you all set? Are you screen sharing today?
Okay, so you want me next?
Yeah.
Okay, because I mean, on the original plan I was last, and then we got moved to second, so now I'm third, so I guess nothing's really
We're fluid. We're
Yes,
we move it
fluid.
around.
Okay, well, I'm going to break conventions and use PowerPoint because everyone loves PowerPoint, obviously. And no way have I put this together at the last minute because, you know, I'm so organized. Anyway, so let's do share screen. Desktop one, so there may be one desktop. And then Apple says I have to give permission to share my screens. Give me just a second. Yes, you're allowed. I might have to rejoin.
That's fine, no worries at all. That's amazing coincidence, Lewis, yourself and Christian from the same small college in Colchester.
It's such a small world, it's crazy.
It's changed a lot. Well, maybe not too much. Still a good college, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Mad, crazy where people go. Yeah, crazy.
Lewis, did you interview me at ASOS? Did you do interviews there?
I did. I don't think I interviewed you.
I hope it wasn't you, because whoever did interview didn't offer me the job. But
yeah, I don't remember.
It's a long time ago. But, yeah.
Now things would look a bit different, I imagine. So, you know.
You're going to have all sorts of people now, Lewis, that you'll see on this very call that all know you from various walks of life.
Well, apparently so.
I don't know where Carl is. I might try and contact him if he's not here in another 30 seconds or so. And Carly, I might bump you up.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, Carl, he'll go from first to second to third to fourth at this rate. Here we go, he's back. Carl, you back? Are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me? Good, yeah. You don't need to test screen sharing, we said. It will be fine, we said. So I've got a QA hat on. You're always supposed to test things.
Do you know what? This could be the first time we didn't test screen sharing for ages. And
I mean, it's not the first time I hit this as well as this. Max got very anal about. Oh, you have to explicitly say which apps are allowed to screen share. Okay, right. So let's try this again. Screen share. I'd like to share this one. Okay, and go from start. So, CoderDojo at the Science Museum. I'm Jokl. I work for a bank. I was, at least in the before times, an LJC associate. It's been so long, I don't even know anymore. I might still be, might not. Okay, so thinking behind CoderDojo, preparing children for the world. We want to try and give children life skills, keep them occupied with something useful and education. So we had the Victorian approach to this, particularly towards poor children. They weren't really very ethical about this. The kind of child labour, mines, collecting cloth from textile machines. It's quite dangerous occupation. Has an awful lot of ethical issues. So it moved on beyond that. I mean, this was the case for the poor. I mean, if you were rich, you probably had a governess or a nanny or something that would teach you things, but it wasn't a very good situation. Moved on to the 20th century, where I decided, let's put the children in a school, even the poor ones. Let's just put them all in a school, because that would be good. So start educating them. Eventually even ruled out this cruel punishments that used to happen in schools and stopped doing that as well. Actually be nice to children. It's the novelty. First computer literacy programs start, particularly led the BBC started doing computer literacy. They recognized there was going to be a need for these computer skills. Sort of happened towards the end of the 1970s, 1980s, the first microcomputers were coming out, they came up with the BBC Micro, they got flooded schools with them as a way of developing these skills. Also, right towards the end, probably about 95 onwards, the internet becomes available. There's certain things, specialist teaching languages came into being, like Basic and Logo. It's designed to teach beginners fundamentals of programming. 21st century, which is where we currently are. So we have wide-scale computerization, very high demand for computer literacy. There's a shortage overall in the UK, shortage of software engineers and technical people, which isn't all evenly distributed across the country. It tends to be that London has a big shortage, the rest of the country, it varies depending if you're in a very urban or rural place. But the projection is that we're going to need more and more of these jobs in the future. Unfortunately, it seems like the trendy thing now is everyone wants to be a social media star. It's like, no, must be technical and learn to code. We have another problem that schools are very financially stretched, if they're not really funding them as they should. That means the schools are trying to compete for technical people to teach IT, but they're in competition with wealthy technology companies, banks, like ones and some good people on the call work for. So it's difficult to attract talent when you haven't got deep pockets. I'm not kind of reading out the people who are passionate about teaching and teach because that's what they love, but it's still challenging to get access to those kind of skills. I think it's worse in the poorest schools that will struggle both for equipment and for skills. So along comes CoderDojo as a program to supplement school education with extracurricular teaching of technical skills. This involves the creation of reusable materials that can be used in different sessions. It also provides a venue to allow children, and not just children, but it's often aimed at children, but it can be adults as well. It gets them to be able to have exposure and collaborate with technical people who have the skills to be able to teach them that they might not otherwise have easy access to. It's outside of schools, so it's not dependent on school resources and budgets. So it ends up acting kind of more as an equalizer from wealthier schools to poorer schools, and may hopefully lead to continued experimentation at home. If the children have a computer at home and they've learned something in a CoderDojo, they might want to continue practicing and applying what they've learned. So motivation, general ethos here is that hopefully we like children, we want to invest in their future, and there's sort of a social contract here that we look after children, they love us, and as a consequence we'll look after us when we're old. Like, hopefully that's the kind of general social contract we're going for. And if we give them high grade technical skills, hopefully get a better paid job and have a larger budget with which to take care of us when we're old. So, might have motivation there to invest in our future. So the Science Museum was founded in 1857, back in the Victorian era, when poor children were still going down the mines and all the other horrible stuff that we started with. It's part of a group with 4 museums. Other 2 big ones that you may well have heard of would be the National Media Museum, National Railway Museum. There are some exhibits and programs that are applicable to multiple museums, particularly certain types of media things can happen at the Science Museum and then also go to the media museum, like the Wonder Lab has been run at both. And the general ethos is they're trying to get the general public to be interested in science in general. So it's just a museum and it's full of science. I mean, it's like my favorite museum. So the Science Museum launches their own CoderDojo. Science Museum went through a recruitment drive to find people willing to volunteer their time with technical skills. It's not just a matter of the technical skills though, because knowing technology and having the ability to teach it to other people, particularly children, don't always go hand in hand. But that's one of the reasons that I got involved, is it's a very good opportunity to learn how to mentor people, because I take the view that if I can explain programming to a child, I ought to be able to explain it to a junior colleague as well. If I have the mindset of how can I put this in simpler terms, or how can I explain it to someone who hasn't got that background. It's also important as well that this is a process of learning. There can be a temptation with technical people to just do things for other people. You see, the solution occurs to us because we've got experience, but it being about leading them in a journey, not just giving the answer, but helping them find the answers for themselves. The initial launch was aimed at family groups, particularly children. They book online. There were 2 sessions running on a Saturday, and we booked to one or the other. I mean, this was in the before times, before COVID. And now getting back into it again, now that things have started up again. But there have been some, sorry, getting ahead of myself. The existing activities have been based around 4 key areas where they've got resources. There's Scratch, which is a simplified graphical programming environment, which involves lots of animation driven by programming and logic, and able to do things like build basic games. There's some basic web development, there's Python development, and there's also the BBC microbit work. They have a collection of microbits that people can hack on. The microbits are based on small microcontrollers. The philosophy behind them is like the reinvention of the BBC Micro, how the BBC Micro was introduced into schools as a way of teaching computer literacy. The microbit is intended to try and do the same thing again, where computers are now so sophisticated, it can be intimidating and difficult to understand them. So the microbit is aimed to have a very stripped down device to do simple things. It also has available an environment which is drag and drop logic that's similar to what Scratch uses, but it also can be programmed using JavaScript. I see potential for other kinds of activities. Given that I've been involved in a few DevOps for Kids events, I've seen other workshops that have happened. One of the limitations is some of these activities really involve having someone running the session that understands things well enough to be able to teach it, so they might not be as easy to pick up. The Now Robot, for example, you actually need the robot, but who knows? I think if the Science Museum asked, I'm aware of the organization that makes the Now Robot has actually donated some to educational institutions, but I don't know if the Science Museum's even aware enough of it to ask them if they can have a robot, but we'll see. This Minecraft modding, started off in Victorian times with children pushing minecarts. I feel like children have this affinity with mining because, we get them out of the mines and then they just go and play Minecraft and they're mining again. I mean, I don't know what that's, it's like they just want to mine, like they were designed to do it. We've got particularly things like the Raspberry Pi. That's typically got a bunch of exercises with Python programming, and given that Python programming is something that's already been taught, it would be a good thing to get into, but I don't think the Science Museum has a collection of Pis to work with, but they could get bought or donated. I've seen things with graphics in Unity and potential for mobile development. There are some new events that have just started. As I said, it started with children, but now the Science Museum is launching some new events, late events for adults, and a couple of events that are particularly focused at neurodivergent and autistic people. Intended to be run at a quieter time, so that less scope for overstimulation from all the noise and busyness. So these will be starting. So about ways of helping, this actual presentation started as a misunderstanding that I thought that the Science Museum was about to do another recruitment session, but it turns out that they're retraining existing volunteers, including me. But having contacted the volunteer coordinator, she said if there's someone I would like to refer, I could put them in touch if someone is interested in doing it. Take on good quality volunteers at any time, but they're not running one of their normal recruitment sessions, they're just retraining. One of the things that has been mentioned in the past is that all these exercises that they're doing in the CoderDojo are just generic exercises that have been downloaded from the internet. There was a desire to try and create some exercises that have something to do with the museum or an exhibit in the museum so that it feels a bit more of a bespoke, tailored exercise. The problem is the volunteer coordinators, they have the people skills and the teaching skills, but they don't have the technical skills to come up with a technical exercise, or at least that was the case the last time I did it. So it would need some collaboration. I've thought in the past whether or not there'd be scope for a hack day. They could find enough interesting people to get technical people working with teaching people and come up with some exercises. Okay, so that's the presentation. I have some BBC micropits and they have cases to make them look like cats, because of course they do. And so any questions?
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carl. Really appreciate that. Yeah, does anyone have any questions at all about the presentation?
But was that sufficiently corporate and banky? I'm not sure if it's fiction.
It was a slight step out of the corporate banking presentation style.
I guess I'll have to
No, I tell you, I really enjoyed it. It's my little one is 7, or my eldest is 7, and we keep thinking about trying to potentially get involved in coding of some kind, and so it was absolute perfect timing for me. And I think this idea, Minecraft modding, I mean, I can't get him off Minecraft, so if I can do that, I'm like 90% there on. I'm going to run a Minecraft modding hack day and try and find some people. So you've certainly inspired me on that. So yeah, I really appreciate it from my side. Attila, I can see you've unmuted there. Did you have a question or a comment at all for Carl?
It's not, if no one has a question, I would like to have a comment. Well, first of all, thank Carl for the presentation, and thanks for promoting technology and teaching people. I have full respect for everyone who sacrifices their own time for doing that. If you are not, so for everyone who wants to contribute but is not able to go to a CoderDojo because they don't think that they have the skills for that, or because, for instance, the Science Museum is out of your reach on the weekends, I would like to promote generally to sign up on STEM.org UK, which is a general governmental organization for an umbrella for all kind of teaching programs, including CoderDojos, as far as I'm aware of, where you can sign up and you can see a lot of volunteering opportunities. Becoming a STEM ambassador is a relatively simple process, and then you can volunteer for all kind of activities, what schools and museums and other activities are requesting to promote whatever you can do, and you don't have to be a coder for that. There are a lot of opportunities for anyone who is working in any part of this STEM areas.
Sorry, Attila, where was that again?
That's STEM Org UK. That's the STEM Ambassador Program. Let me put the link in the chat. So if you would like to volunteer, I would really recommend you to do that there. If CoderDojo is not necessarily your thing, but of course, CoderDojos are great. So if you can do that, please do so.
My thinking has been, particularly with the lockdown, we should have more skills than ever about remote collaboration, about getting a bunch of people who are not physically located together to build something. And I think if we can do that professionally, like we do apply the same thing to creating some exercises. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially dancing, it's probably more interesting than what they are normally doing. It's really stuff to make lights flash and stuff and don't deal with processing compliance and all these other very important things.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Carl, and thank you, Attila. Oliver, I can see you're unmuted. Did you have a question, or was that the comment you already made?
I wanted to make a brief comment, and that is that for primary age children, these languages, Python and JavaScript, I think they are much too ambitious. My mother was a primary school teacher. She had a physical turtle that had a pen that dropped and drawn a piece of paper on the floor, and the children really engaged, and Logo is a really simple language. I'm old enough that there were no computers around when I was a primary age child, but as a secondary school child, I first learned BASIC. It's a really simple language. It's a bad language. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but I think the whole ambition of bringing people in, it needs to start with BASIC or Logo-like languages, and then people will migrate to much better languages once they've got the step over the door. I've looked at the microbit site during your talk as well, Carl. That's really interesting too. Thank you.
I might say that Scratch is a bit like the modern equivalent. Well, I say modern. It's not exactly like a BASIC or even Logo, but it's a visual drag and drop. It's aimed at introducing people to programming concepts at a younger age, yes, visually. Before they learn, they're old enough to kind of.
But I strongly suspect it doesn't work because it's not done in what you would call a text editor. And consequently, they don't feel like they're coding. And so this next step, I suspect it's very difficult to get somebody to go from a visual tool like that, where you might be doing what you'd really be doing in the BASIC editor, onto JavaScript or Python. So yeah, I do appreciate it, but I just, yeah, I think another approach might be. Sorry.
Do you know what I feel like this is good fodder for a panel discussion or an open roundtable on this kind of coding for kids. So I might well talk to you both afterwards and see if you're interested in doing that.
We should have over time in the next speakers pretty much changed.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to go to the final talk for today, which is Carly. I'm going to stop the recording at this point. Okay.